Good evening from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. This is part 5 of Monsters because randomly we got cut off and I don't know why. So I want to finish this chapter and we're not far from the end of it actually. How many pages left? But we're on the last 2 pages, so it's annoying that we got cut off and interrupted when I was forging ahead to finish this chapter on monsters from Mysteries of the Unexplained. But anyway, Mama T is back and we're going to complete this chapter. And the time is 6:44 p.m. on the 21st of February 2025. So I'll start from the beginning of the paragraph where we got cut off. I'll repeat that paragraph just for coherence and continuity because it's a bit weird how we just got blipped off. So, in a sequel to the Chinese incidents of the previous decades, a team of scientists scoured Zhejiang province late in 1980 for solid evidence of living ape men. At the Bihu Middle School in Lishui County, Chinese investigators obtained from biology teacher Zhu Shusong the well-preserved hands and feet of the ape-like creature routed by Zhu Fudi in 1957. Apart from some shrinkage of the muscles, the remains were in good condition. The feet, which were covered with soft yellowish-brown hair, measured about 7.5 inches in length, and the palms of the hands about 5.5 inches. It was agreed that the creature was probably a primate and possibly akin to a chimpanzee. Exploring the woods and hills of Zhejiang with a local 60-year-old herb picker for a guide, the team actually found something like a small stockade at an elevation of about 5,000 feet. Wedged between trees and a rock, the structure was made of branches and lined with grass and leaves. The size of the branches, broken from nearby trees, suggested tremendous strength. The construction of the nest indicated an intelligence somewhat above that of an ape. Climbing yet higher, the team found 11 additional nests scattered over an area called Fengshuoyang, some of them built in trees and others on the ground. Judging by their condition, as well as by nearby footprints and droppings, none of the nests was more than 2 years old. One appeared to have been built only a month before. Samples of soft brown hair were also found. Other recently constructed nests were discovered near the rarely visited peak of Nine Dragon Mountains, along with prints of a left foot that measured about 13 inches long. The toes were separated like those of a human being. To valley villagers, the findings came as no surprise. Zhang Qilin of Jikangli village said, "For the past 30 years or more, I have gone up to Nine Dragon Mountains every year in September or October to guard the maize crop against ape men. I saw an ape man about 10 years ago. It approached from Fengshuoyang. It was about as high as a house door, and it was covered in reddish-brown hair, with long hair falling around its shoulders and over its face. It walked upright. On another occasion, I saw an ape man lying in a nest in a tree. It was quite relaxed, and it clapped its hands when it saw me. Most of the time, it just lay there, eating maize. There was a big pile of cobs on the ground. Just going to put the light on. It's getting quite dark. Equally surprised was Huang Jialiang of Shenkang village, who had seen an ape man on August 14, 1978. It was carrying a piece of wood and walking through the forest about 65 feet away from Huang in the direction of Fengshuyang. Commenting on the creature's fondness for corn, Huang added casually, "We know they also like to eat persimmons and wild pears." According to John Eric Beckyard, founder and director of Project Bigfoot in Seattle, Washington, Bigfoot Sasquatch sightings occur every month. On July 3, 1981, loggers in southwest Washington saw a 9 or 10-foot tall Sasquatch at a distance of 400 feet. On October 18, a logger picking mushrooms in the same area heard growling and noticed the characteristic strong odor of the large, hairy monster. Project Bigfoot collects not only eyewitness reports, but hair and blood samples as well. Specimens obtained at the scenes of the 4 following incidents have been carefully tested by scholarly skeptics. In Rock State Park, Maryland, near Bel Air, Peter Hronek was driving a sports car late one night in 1975 when he hit what he thought to be a Bigfoot. Recovering its balance, the creature loomed up over the car, made grumbling sounds, then loped off. Hair stuck to the dented headlight was removed for analysis. On the Lumi, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Indian reservation in Bellingham, Washington, a Sasquatch tried to force its way into a food storage room in the home of the Jeffersons on the night of January 14, 1976. The family woke to the sounds of breaking glass. Leaping up and grabbing a rifle, Mr. Jefferson found glass from the 5-foot-high window in the storage room shattered all over the floor and blood smeared on the shards. Black hairs with white tips were found on the window and among the glass fragments on the floor. John Beckyard himself came to collect the blood and hair samples and gather reports of the many Sasquatch sightings and attempted entries into houses on the reservation. Near Sacramento, California, in May 1976, a group of teenagers saw a Sasquatch breaking branches off an apricot tree and eating the fruit. The creature left 25-inch long tracks. The youngsters collected hair from a fence and turned it over to Beckyard. In Lebanon, Oregon, in 1977, a huge creature tore doors off a barn and ruined fences while uttering piercing screams. hair samples were taken by Beckjord. The one blood sample secured in the course of the events from the broken glass in the Jefferson house was tested by Dr. Vincent Sarich, physical anthropologist and biochemist at the University of California at Berkeley. He found it to be the blood of a higher primate. The hairs associated with the blood sample, as well as the other hair samples, were analysed by 3 experts. They concluded that it had not come from a human, wolf, bear, or comparable mammal, nor did the hair match that of any primate submitted for the study, although it was close to that of a gorilla. Beckjord says of the creatures, "They are too large to be men, too much obviously there to be myth. They may be man-related hominid primates." From Frontiers of Science, Volume 3, 22 to 27, whatever chapters, I presume they mean by that. March, April 1981, telephone interview with John Beckjord, Seattle, Washington. Then we have another short article which I will read, entitled, "Do Monsters Really Fly?" The monsters that come by land and by sea are fairly well documented, and if it is true that mankind has an innate need to believe in otherworldly creatures, it is not surprising that they reportedly come by air as well. The evidence, however, is less than compelling. Mythology has supplied some fascinating species. The ancient tales include flying, fire-breathing dragons, my favourite, the fearsome roc of the Arabian Nights, that's the giant bird that lays giant eggs so big that they can cover an entire city, the rapacious winged harpies of Greek mythology, oh yes, they were rather scary too, and the awesome thunderbird of American Indian lore, also quite terrifying. The best case for airborne beasts is made by the fossil remains of the pterodactyl, a sharp-toothed reptile with a wingspan of more than 25 feet. If mankind has indeed a racial memory here, then is a flying monster fit for the most lurid? Here then is a flying monster fit for the most lurid nightmares. I nearly said nightingales. Well, from pterodactyl to nightingale, it's only a few billion years or so, thereabouts. Does a pterodactyl sing in Berkeley Square? Probably shrieks so loud, so piercingly, in a different time, in a different space-time continuum. Anyway, I'm just being silly. I get a bit silly sometimes, people are there. Work with me, people are there. Right, where were we? Shrieking pterodactyls in place of nightingales. But is that a sufficient explanation for the persistent reports of flying monsters? Or could such atavistic creatures, whether large or not so large, be a current reality? In New Jersey there have been periodic reports of the Jersey Devil, as noted in Janet and Colin Board's Alien Animals. I've heard of that. I've seen YouTube videos on that. The Jersey Devil. Google it, people of Earth. It's very interesting. This improbable critter, said by some to be the size of a large crane, is variously described as having a long, thick neck, long back legs with cloven hooves, short front legs with paws, bat-like wings with about a 2-foot spread, the head of a horse, dog or ram, and a long, scrawny tail. Sounds like something made up by someone on drugs, doesn't it? However, stranger things have been known to exist on this planet. You can't judge by cloven hooves and horse heads, just saying, unless you're the mafia and a horse head appears in your bed. But that's a fish of a different colour. There'll be none of that. Everybody be good. In his... I know. I just have to take a moment here. Okay, I'm back in the room. In his book, In Witch-Bound Africa, Frank H. Malland reports hearing repeatedly of a fearful creature called the Kongomato that resembles a flying lizard with smooth skin, a beak full of teeth, and wings with bat-like skin, and a span of 4 to 7 feet. This sounds suspiciously like a cousin of the pterodactyl. Those who tell of seeing Kongomato or the Jersey Devil are doubtless sincere about it. The sightings are currently too few to build a convincing case, but should they become as frequent as those of Nessie and the Sasquatch, we will have airborne candidates for the Society of Probable Monsters. From places as far removed as Washington, Texas, and West Virginia have come reports of Mothman, as noted in John A. Keel's book, The Mothman Prophecies. Also fascinating and well worth looking into on YouTube videos or reading the actual books. This strange winged creature is reputed to be man-shaped and grey in colour, which accounts for the name. Most people who say they have seen it agree that it emanates an aura of bone-chilling fear. One witness, confessing to unreasonable terror during his encounter with Mothman, describes his reaction as follows. I've never had that feeling before, a weird kind of fear. That fear gripped you and held you. Somehow, the best way to explain it would be to say that the whole thing just wasn't right. I know that may not make sense, but that's the only way I can put into words what I felt. This strange, grey flying man could, however, be related to well-documented phenomena of sightings of unidentified flying objects. If mankind has need of airborne monsters, the UFOs may have to suffice. And I'll just show you this illustration of a Jersey Devil reported in 1909 by a couple living in Gloucester, New Jersey, appeared in a Philadelphia newspaper story about the sighting. It's a strange looking beast, very strange, part horse, part bat, with paws instead of hooves on the front paws, and a very weird spiny looking tail. I guess if I ran into something like that on a dark night, I'd be saying, "Good evening, sir. I'm about to leave the building, just like Elvis. And on that note, thus concludes today's afternoon, evenings readings of Even Date. Hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and have a beautiful evening. It's Friday night, so to my Jew crew, or those of you who practice Judaism, still believe in the Holy One and all manifestations of holiness, I bid you Shabbat Shalom, and to my non-Jewish viewers, happy Friday, and I'm off dancing as is my usual practice on a Friday night, because I no longer observe the Sabbath in the traditional Jewish way, although I did for many years, about 35 years. So now I dance wildly to live bands and make a bit of a fool of myself while doing the world mosh at nearly 60. It's a little bit ridiculous, but it's how I express myself, and you can find makom in all sorts of unusual places, and sometimes it's as spiritual as any time I spent in any synagogue on a Friday evening or Saturday morning, especially the ones here in Brisbane, just saying. So anyway, no cynicism, no bitterness, just let go, let God, and enjoy your weekend, people of Earth. Bye for now. Blessed be. Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.